Hey guys, it's your boy here, Sean, again, doing your whiteboard today. So today I wanted to talk about something that's really important, and it's been going and being discussed and being fleshed out in the academic realm in the seminaries. And a lot of people have some questions about, what is so important about covenant theology. And so in my previous short, I talked about this thing up here, the Pactum Salutis. Sorry if you can't see that very well. There you go. And really how that is the bedrock of Reformed theology. But I want to talk today about more or less a framework that a lot of people are using to kind of understand and how to systematize the covenants of the Bible, because they are very important. And if you're a Christian, you are part of the new covenant to some degree. And so you kind of need to understand what covenants are in play and how they play out. So what I'm going to show you today is called tri-covenantalism. It is mostly being used by Presbyterians in the PCA, OPC, those types of Reformed people. I think it's a very helpful tool to understand what's going on. And so if you look here, you have from Alpha, hope my Greek is right, to Omega, right there. That is the Pactum Salutis. That is happening in eternity past to eternity future. It is the covenant between God the Father and God the Son, the plan of redemption. If you die on the cross, if you take the sins of man, Jesus will be rewarded with his bride, essentially. So, and this happens outside of creation. It happens between the Godhead, an interdialogue, if you will. Now, if you get past that, which, some people have a problem accepting this as an actual covenant because it's not as clear as the other covenants. Let's get to two other covenants. The first one is right here. It's the covenant of works. And this is the covenant where God says, hey, Adam, you have to do this. You have to be fruitful and multiply. You have to not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. These are things that mankind has to do to remain in God's blessing and curses, or be cursed, rather. And then the next one is the covenant of grace, or the covenant which gives us salvation, if you will. This is a covenant of faith, where the other one, while it's a covenant of works, it can also be called the covenant of creation. Man doing what God intended him to be worshipful and to work the garden and expand God's glory over the face of the earth. So these are the two main covenants that we see playing out here on earth. Now, as you see here in this diagram, the covenant of works goes through all the ages and exists even past Jesus. But he is the only one who can rightfully fulfill the covenant, because as you remember, Adam failed, hence the fall. There we go. And so it exists. It is, you are created. You are a created being. You have to adhere to this, and this shows you that you cannot, that you're incapable of following the law of God. You're incapable of doing everything that you were intended to do by God, because you are sinful and an enemy of God, if you will. And so then we get, I won't say the more controversial one, but definitely the one that's people are trying to flesh out its understanding. So you have the covenant of grace. Now, you see the covenant of grace being cut with Abraham. This is, the covenant where you have the animals lined up. I want to say Genesis 17, if you will, where you have the animals lined up, cut in half, bifurcated, bleeding out. You have birds of the air coming and trying to take the carcasses and eat from them, and all that stuff. So this is when it gets cut, and then it moves on from administration to administration all the way to Jesus. And this is the Presbyterian argument of the covenant of grace. And they might even go so far to say is that it existed in Adam, when God ended up covering Adam and Eve's nakedness with the slaughter of an animal and using the skins. That is, in effect, God's way of giving grace, being a precursor to Christ, and showing it. And this is a very helpful tool, I think, and I'll go slowly so y'all can kind of see it. But my main gripe is, I hate to be picky about language, but basically, the covenant of grace through this framework shows continuity from beginning to end, saying grace occurs because of faith. We as Christians are saved in the same manner that the ancient Israelis were saved, through faith. Those who departed from the faith, and we read it all throughout the Old Testament, do not take part in the covenant of grace, even though they be born into a nation that has this covenant, that is protectors of the covenant, protectors of the law, stewards of it. They do not always take part in the covenant of grace because they didn't have faith. You see the faithlessness of Israel all the time. In the two kingdom period, always going to idols, always evil, and always getting punishment by God. And so what the issue is, I think, is that you have the Abrahamic administration, and you have the Mosaic administration, and you have the Davidic administration, and then you just have the New Covenant, the Jesaic administration. And I kind of have a problem with that, because if you read it that way, it's all of this is the same since the beginning, and there's nothing really new when you get to this figure here. Do you see the problem with that? Instead, let me pose a different framework. Pause that. Welcome back, guys. Thank you for allowing me some time to fix the framework that we have on the whiteboard. So what Calvin says is something really interesting. He says that when it comes to types and shadows don't actually have weight. They're not the true substance. And he was talking about the covenants to some degree, that the earlier covenants don't have the full thrust because they're not fully substantial, if you will, without the cross. And so this is the framework that I've been proposing and mulling in my head. You have Jesus with the cross right here, dying in 33 AD, or whenever you want to date it. And then as you move backwards in time, the shadow becomes less and less obvious. The first covenant, if you consider the loincloth to be a sign of the covenant, perhaps you do, that is just mere shadow, but very, very vague. Then as you progress toward the future, you get more understanding of the covenant through Abraham. When you get Moses, you get a lot of it. You get God giving direct revelation, codifying everything. And then when you get to David, you even get a little bit more understanding of what God intends his relationship with the people be. He is going to be the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. The son of David will call David will call his son Lord. How's that going to work? It's because he's the Lord of Lords. He's the King of Kings. He is the true substance. And so if you understand the covenant of grace as meaning the cross, and you get to see it throughout all time moving forward, it makes a little bit more sense to me, because this is where the true substance is. It's not in the Mosaic covenant. It's not in the Davidic covenant. It's in the cross. It's the new covenant poured out in Christ's blood. And so this is the framework that I've been playing with as trying to understand the covenant of grace, which it exists in the Bible. You see it. You see God providing curses for people who believe in him. He provides blessings for people who believe in him and curses for those who break the covenant. And so I think this is a little bit more clear. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way I'm thinking of it. But it's not making Jesus just a new administration of an old covenant. He is the operative aspect of the covenant of grace, and everything else has been kind of a telos, pointing toward this and telling of this moving forward. And so, I think that's a good lesson in covenant theology. If you have any questions or concerns, or hey, you're full of it, put them in the comments, because I love having this conversation. All right, take it easy, guys. Bye.